Namaste. So I want to wrap up this topic of anti-fragility and spiritual paths. And after our long conversation between me and Michael, and seeing the comments that came up on the last two videos, and thinking about it quite a bit myself, I've come to the conclusion that only a purely spiritual function or process can be anti-fragile. What does that mean? That means it's not a fabrication. It's not an abstraction. It's not anything that comes into existence at a particular time and place. See, the scientists and material philosophers have it all backwards. They're trying to say that consciousness comes into existence as an epiphenomenon in the context of the creation. They have it exactly backwards. You know, just like Descartes saying, I think, therefore I am. No, I am, therefore I think. And similarly, it's not that consciousness arises as an epiphenomenon of the material creation, some neural physical process or something. It's the other way around. The creation arises in the context of consciousness as an epiphenomenon. This is critical because this is true spirituality. It's not that true spirituality has only one certain form or one particular name or belief or philosophy or process or whatever. That's not possible. Why? Because there are an infinite variety of sentient beings. And each one has the authority, has the sovereignty over his own consciousness to create or invent spiritual means that suit his preferences. See, it's exactly the opposite of what we've been told. What we've been told is that there are certain great beings and their thoughts and opinions are authoritative, and that we all have to follow in their footsteps, like disciples. Well, that might be all right in the beginning when you're just starting out in spiritual life and you don't know anything really. And you're still conditioned by the material world. If we came right out and said in the very beginning that, hey, you create your own reality and all like that, people wouldn't know how to handle it. And we see they don't. There are plenty of faddish, rich hipsters who come to Tiruvannamalai as tourists. And some of them even hang out a shingle as a teacher. And they talk about Advaita non-duality and enlightenment and so on and so forth. But they do it in such a way as to make it another dogmatic religion. That only this is the way and everything else is wrong. Well, that's duality. See, real Advaita contains duality. Just like the creation, from the point of view of the highest platform, Ajata, appears as a mirage, an appearance, like a dream in consciousness. So some sophisticated teachers like Jiddu Krishnamurti and U.G. Krishnamurti and I don't know, Rajneesh and some other people like that, they talk as if this is the only reality. See, and that's again putting it on a dogmatic platform. This is the only reality, Krishnamurti says, that the truth is beyond the mind and indescribable and cannot be known. Well, yeah, that's true, but that doesn't help the people who are down in the muck of conditioned existence and consciousness, thinking that whatever is certainly can be known. So then Ramana Maharshi comes along and he asks, who are you? Like the caterpillar in Alice in Wonderland, smoking his hookah. Who are you? Pretty good stuff. Why? Because it forces you to turn your attention toward yourself and look at what you are. And if you're honest with yourself, you have to come to the conclusion that I am, but it's inexplicable. It can't be explained in words because words are a product of knowledge and knowledge is dualistic and I'm not. So this makes a conundrum. How to create a spiritual path that is at once accepting the non-dual reality and also addresses the dualistic illusion. And that's why I love the Sri Vidya so much. I think after a long search, oh my God, you have no idea. I must have read, 50,000 books in my lifetime. After a long search, I've come to the conclusion, and also going into it and experiencing it for myself, as you can see by some of the videos on this channel, that the Sri Vidya, the worship of Shakti, has all those qualities. On the one hand, yeah, it's a fabrication, but it admits it's a fabrication. One of the names of Shakti is Mahamaya, Vishnu Maya, and so on. So that even Shiva's form is considered a product of Maya. And that's all right. There's no problem with that. If we see from the highest platform that this Maya, this dream of form and manifestation, is simply an appearance in consciousness, in Brahman. Brahman, of course, is the root substance, and it's pure non-dual awareness. And in that non-dual awareness, somehow duality arises. Well, of course, it's got to be an illusion, because there is no duality. There is no duality. So any appearance of duality has to be an illusion. But people say, no, the world is real because I perceive it. Therefore, it has to be real. Well, you perceive the world maybe, 16 or 18 hours a day, and then you go to sleep. And what happens to the world? It disappears, and it's replaced by another world, the dream world, where things are really different. I had a dream this morning. I was going to get in my car, and at first my car was white, and it looked sort of like an old Corvette. Remember the really old Corvettes from the 60s, or was it an old MG Racer or something like that? And it was white. Okay. And then I noticed this other car, a big like suburban station wagon. It had Malibu embossed on the side. And I turned back to get in my car, and my car was red. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen in Jagrat, in waking consciousness, but it sure can happen in dreams, and it does. Weird stuff like that happens all the time in dreams. And then that world disappears, and we're in Suśupti, deep sleep. And in deep sleep, there's nothing to perceive. That doesn't mean that we're not conscious or that we're not aware. It simply means there's nothing there. So, what happened to our real world? Well, it'll be there when you wake up. It'll always be there when you're in Jagrat consciousness. Just like the dreams will always be there in dream consciousness. So you see, it's a matter of consciousness. It's always a matter of consciousness. So nothing that is fabricated, nothing that is abstract, no simple dotted lines drawn on a map, like the borders between countries or something like that. None of that is real. None of these nation states are real. None of these religions, none of these corporations, political parties, or whatever, groups of different kinds and sizes, none of them are real. They're all just names. Names and an agglomeration of forms attached to them. That's all they are. See, so if you say, for example, you go in a church and say, oh, you're in such and such a religion. Yes. Okay, can you show me your religion? Or maybe they'll point at the church, or maybe the church is full of people. They say, you see, there's our religion. No, that's not your religion. Or maybe they point to a book and say, this is our religion. That's not a religion, it's a book. It's a book and a building called a church, and there's some people in it who believe the stories in your book. That's all. There ain't no such thing as a religion, just like there ain't no such thing as a country. A country is simply a name given to a collection of various items, people and other stuff. It's an abstraction. It doesn't really exist. So an abstraction cannot really help you. It certainly can't bring you to enlightenment, except perhaps by recognizing its real nature as an illusion, as a dream. You think dream consciousness goes away when you wake up? No. No, it's there, just under the surface. Ask any psychiatrist. Especially the Freudians and the Jungians. They understood this very well. Your dreams don't go away when you wake up. They simply go into the subconscious or the collective unconscious. And that remains. So people are dreaming that there are countries, dreaming that there are religions, dreaming that there are groups and organizations and money and all kinds of things that are simply abstractions, illusions, fabrications, dreams. So if those are dreams, then actually the whole world is also a dream. Because what we call the world is simply an aggregate of a bunch of different perceptions of different senses. And we don't even know if they're true or not. Well, actually, we know that they're not true. I gave the example of the finger looking big when it's close and small when it's far away. So all the senses lie in the same ways. So we can't really trust any of them. What they're showing us is not what's really there. That means the world as we perceive it is an illusion. It's a dream. It's not real. And that also goes for the self, the ego, the individual, the identity. Identity is always calculated in terms of external things. My family, my home, my country, my religion, my education, my desires, my this, my that, different possessions or whatever. In other words, identity is not intrinsic to the self with a capital S. Real identity is simply awareness, unconditioned, non-dual, awareness without an object. That's the real identity. You can't give a name to it. We call it the self, but what does that really mean? All the self is Brahman. The Upanishads are very clear on this. So really the only form of religion or spiritual truth or spiritual cultivation or path that is anti-fragile, that not only does not diminish with the various changes in the material world, but actually increases its strength with those changes, is this Brahman, is this self, this non-dual awareness. So one must approach a spiritual master. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna uses the imperative form of the verb. One must approach a realized spiritual master. And just by his association, you'll get something. So the trick is finding somebody who is realized amidst the many, many frauds. And I would suggest that one way to do it is to see how much this person is invested in illusions, in fabrications, like a group, a reputation, fame, money, influence, and so forth. If that person is really working very hard, chasing after these things, then it's likely that they're not for real. But if you see someone, I mean, this is why I love Ramana Maharshi. He's effortless. He's not chasing after anything. He has no desires. He's just resting. He's cool. He's chilled out. So a person like that who doesn't have an organization, of course, an organization manifested around him, but that was mostly the doing of his family members. Really, he didn't do much of anything, except when people would come and ask him questions, he would respond. And when they were qualified, he gave them the Advaita teachings. And when they weren't, he simply encouraged them to continue whatever process they were already doing. That's all. That's all he did. But by his association, by his mere glance, by his company, he could transfer something of his knowledge. And, of course, the way it works is, the first one is free. The first samadhi, the first realization, the first path realization especially, is given as a blessing. And then, of course, you've earned it. But after that, it's up to you to figure out how to bring that state of being about for yourself, by yourself, because you are the self. Om Tat Sat. Aum Harihi Aum.